welcome back number 25, Kevin Stevens.
We're all gonna have choices in life. 28 years old, never did a drug in my life. Someone handed me something. So one 30-second decision I made changed the past of my life. For the next 24 years, my life went like this. We're on TV now, so it's kind of
scary.
You know, our radio and our podcast can see on TV, which is kind of new to us. So painfully, like I sat with you guys all for a long time, guys, and sat there and say it's never going to be me. You know, now I'm sitting here talking to you guys because it was me. I know how those people feel because I've been in those situations where I've been stuck, and when you're in it, you can't see it. It's very hard. It's a very difficult thing, addiction and substance abuse, and people need help, and we have to get out there and kind of educate people and try to do the best we can to help. Welcome to Crosscheck Radio. My name is Kevin Stevens, and got a great show today. Got one of my hockey buddies here, and you know, it's always good to see gents. So I'll turn it over to my buddy Andy, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Kevin. As you mentioned, we do have former NHL veteran, the great David A.Jensen. What's the A stand for?
It's Allen.
David Allen Jensen. And we also have two special guests from the sober living community, which, after a little hockey talk with Kev and Alex, this will be the theme for today's show. But obviously, before we talk to you, we got to introduce Alex Bezanson, an iconic figure in the town of Abington. Iconic.
That's right.
And he founded the Abington Substance Awareness Coalition and the Hug Foundation.
Yes.
And we're going to hear from our other host, co-host Alyssa Horton, in a few. But let's welcome our first guest today, NHL veteran David Allen Jensen. It makes you sound like you're on the run.
Well, no. What happened was
there was a reason for that, right?
On the 84 Olympic team, we had two David Jensens, believe it or not.
Not Jansen.
Nope, Jensen.
Jensen.
And there was a David H. Jensen.
David H. Jensen.
David A.
You guys talk hockey.
We do.
All right.
Yeah, no, it's we talk hockey. It's always good to see Jen. It's funny, we kind of grew up together, playing against each other, watching each other, and once you're kind of a Boston hockey guy, we're pretty connected with pretty much everybody we play with around here, which is great, right?
Yeah, for life. Kevin was such a great kid. I remember in high school, what a great player, but just a better person. I see guys like Stevie Leach.
Yeah.
Same type of thing. He was our
Leach
era.
is great, yeah.
We just love guys. There's a special bond there between us all.
Yeah, it's awesome. So
totally.
All right, let's talk a little bit about how you played in the Olympic team in '84. That's kind of where you guys. I think the hardest thing was the '80 team winning. You guys were the next. Next time. I played in '88, so it was 8 years away. So we had a little less pressure.
And a lot lower bar, considering we finished in 7th place as opposed to 1st place.
And you actually had some great players, great talent on the '84 team.
We did. We had a couple of probably the best Americans ever, and Chris Chelios and Pat LaFontaine. Just phenomenal. Your team was stacked.
Yeah, we had a lot of good players, too. It's crazy how hard it is. That's why you look at the 1980 team. For that team to win.
Was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Think about it. It's
totally.
Just, the team, that Russian team they beat,
unbelievable.
It's almost impossible. But it's so from there you went on to play some pros. You went.
Unfortunately, I played in the Olympics. I as a senior in high school.
Yeah, you were young. Yeah,
I was young, and back then, as you know, we left in August and we came back in February, basically. And I came back to high school and played 2 high school games after the Olympics, and then.
Did you win?
We won. So it was kind of a weird experience. It was unique. And then I signed with the Hartford Whales and started out of high school. And unfortunately, my first year I blew up my knee.
Yeah,
and
you
I
got
had
banged up.
Reconstructive knee surgery and then shoulders. And
back then it was tough. Now the surgery's like they can fix it. Back then it's major surgery.
It was a toolbox on the knee, so to speak. And good luck, as far as the hockey career goes. But it was still, I played 8 years of pro hockey and its relationships I took out of it. Yeah. It was phenomenal. I obviously, because of injuries, I wasn't able to reach the potential I was supposed to reach as an NHL player. But, hey, listen, it was 8 years of pro, and it was guys like you.
Oh,
that's what we take out of it. And I talk to guys like Pat LaFontaine. He's like,
Patty's great,
we never, goals and assists. We don't talk about that. We talk about the fun times, the relationships, and that's what it's all about when it's all over. That's what you take away with it.
Yeah, there's so many great relationships. And
like anything.
All right, so then we move on a little further, and we get stuck in this beautiful thing, addiction. It's kind of like, believe me, I'm not saying I'm the same as you. We all kind of, you're getting this little path, a little rut, whatever you think, one thing leads to another. How did all that happen, Jens?
Well, for me, although I think I always had the alcoholic tendencies, looking back in my life, I crossed the line into the world of addiction when I was about 40 years old, through and I'm not going to blame or name him, but through a physical with the primary care doctor. Was looking at all my scars, my shoulders and my knees, and I remember him asking me, you must be in a lot of pain these days, at your age, and I said, yeah, my back, my shoulder, and he said, I got something that can help you with that, and it was a little script for Vicodin, which I started taking, and then it was Percocets, and then it was OxyContin, and then it was
that game,
and like I hold much of the responsibility for that, but before I knew it, I had crossed over into the world of becoming an addict, and we're talking about narcotics here, so it's no different from any other addict. Once you cross over, it's very tough to get back over the line.
And it's amazing how how you do cross. So like I had the same thing. It's fun for a little while, like. And next thing you know, you cross that line and you're stuck, right? And then
without a doubt, it's euphoric for a while, unfortunately. And then you'll use it for everything, and then you think you need it to be well. And unfortunately, nothing's further from the truth. It actually keeps you and makes you sick. But once you're there, I'll never forget when I really realized, like, I was a drug addict. It was mind blowing to me. It was such an emotional, like, it was crushing, and I didn't know. I was crying by myself. Like, how do I get back?
So how long were you doing that?
For a couple of years, before it spun out of control, like trying to, maintain.
Was the doctor still giving you prescriptions?
Yeah. It escalated to, at the end of it, throughout 2 years. I mean, it starts slow, obviously from Vicodin, but your body builds up an immunity to it, so you need more and more and more. And then you're just taking it to try to keep from becoming sick. It doesn't make you feel better. It's just it's an awful cycle. I think anybody who's been in addiction knows what I'm talking about. But having said that, it gets to a point where I was broken down into, it was just, my whole life was falling apart. And it happens quick, but it was sort of much longer than I wanted to be.
Yeah, I think it drags and drags. It burns you. And so when did you have enough? How did you get to the sober and where you are today? And,
Wow, it was a long road back. It really was. It took me, I'm thinking, again, when I was about to turn 40 in that 2005 mark, it took me 5 years of, I was a habitual relapser, trying every single way that I could to get back without the least amount of effort and the least amount of pain, so to speak. And it didn't work for me that way. It wasn't until I was able to really commit to, and through the NHL alumni, a program where I went out to California for 85 days, I still remember, back in 2010, to a place called the Canyon Ranch, which was phenomenal, to deal with some, not just the addiction, my addiction, but also everything that came along with all the carnage and wreckage I created through my addiction with my family, my wife, and my whole life. So, it took every bit of that therapeutically, clinically, to get me through depression, anxiety that built all this. It just caved my world into. I remember going out there, honestly, like, I couldn't even wake up and really get in the shower, really tie my shoes. I was a broken man. So, that 85 days was phenomenal for me to get through that. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that in a place like that, but they do have an opportunity to go away to a place similar to that. To get in my opinion, what I needed was the clinical, the therapy, and then from that point on, the critical part was the transition back into real life. So I voluntarily, I knew I needed to. And it's funny how, I fought it forever for 5 years about not wanting to take that next step. Even going to California, they said 30 days. I said, how about 3? You know what I mean? Like 3, I should be better. So, but once I got there and it was working for me, I wanted more and more and more. Because I finally had hope in my life for the first time. I felt myself getting better and getting to the other side of stuff that bothered me that I didn't even realize bothered me since I was a child. If that makes sense to anybody. But having said that, after 85 days, it was every month they approve it through the NHL alumni. So they gave me 30 more. I'm like, awesome. I'm going to get much better. Then they gave me another 2 weeks after 2 months. And then, at 85 days, they're like, you're ready to, not the NHL alumni, but the clinicians are like, you're ready for the next step. So then I moved on to a sober home, which I went to. And, I started out at 3 months, and I wanted another 3 months, and I was at 6 months there. And then they're like, you're ready. And I'm like, no, I think I could use 3 more months because, again, I'm getting better and better and better. So your psychology changes, Artie.
Did you have a fear relapse, and that's why you wanted to stay?
I did, but I had a real fear of that, but I just felt like I was in a position where time was helping me and I was doing what I needed to do. And it's not extraordinary work to get through recovery. It takes, looking and being willing to be able to help by guys like us ahead of you who can help you through the stages of recovery and the next steps to get well and to have a balanced life and a balanced program. I get well to have a great life and to have fun. Yeah. And I didn't realize, as I was sick through the years, it became overwhelming to me, thinking like I can never be perfect in the program or do enough to get well. But
that's so important. I think, the willingness to go out to the canyons, and get it, that's your first step. But I think the biggest thing is, like you said, the transition. For me, every time I went into a lot of rehabs too. Yep. And I used to leave and they said, "What are you going to do different?" No, I'm just going to go home. I'm going to go home and see how this thing works, and then, about 4 or 5 days later, I'm kind of hanging out with the same people and next thing you know, I'm back in where I started again. Didn't want to, right? But it was one little quick decision, and I'm on the run again. And then I think the biggest thing that we all can do is time, right? And then the transition where you can be with people that are in recovery every day, instead of jumping into your friends, where you're getting back into those places. And now you're doing great stuff. You're 8 years sober. You're day at a time doing awesome stuff. So where are you now? What's
well, I'm actually, what you're doing now? I do. I have a nice balanced life. So I work at a premium level sober home as a sober coach and program manager there. So I'm able to help a lot of guys, in recovery through that. Usually they're coming out of an inpatient setting like we've been to, with that transition into the life and getting back with their families, the reintegration into work and real life, which is phenomenal for me. And then I also run DAJ Hockey, which is a for-profit and a non-profit for street hockey and anti-bullying programs, which is probably the most important thing I do with the kids.
He does a lot of that stuff. We actually have one coming up this week.
In Abington. The Abington Police Station this Saturday from 11 to 1 with the police chief. And it's just a phenomenal program. We're trying to reach middle school kids and the youth of today about just how awful bullying is, and trying to stand up and fight against it, because with cyberbullying and kids are just it's awful what's happened to kids out there. And we're on an adult show here, so there are kids taking their lives because of the bullying and the social bullying. So. And people don't realize there's not enough awareness and education, but we're trying to go to the root of it and work with the kids and mentor the kids so that we can change that.
We've had several here in Abington.
We have.
Junior high kids, high school kids.
Because you're an icon in Abington.
Well,
So I have a question for you. We talk about sober homes, sober living, and you work for a facility outside Boston, as we talked about.
Sure.
Tell us what sober living is for people out there who may not know exactly what it is, and just a little more insight to it and what the advantages are to it.
Well, it's coming out of, usually, again, it's either a detox or inpatient. It's reintegration into life, and we're there to help coach them and help them sort of through the stages of recovery, because it's important to get back, whether it's family or job, to create a wellness plan. Everyone's different. We try to evaluate and work with each client that comes in, see where they're at, what their history is, and where they want to be. Okay. So it just puts together a plan and gives them time, like we talked about. I was lucky. I had 3 months in a place because, I got funded by the NHL. But most guys get 30 days. So 30 days and back in the same environment you talk about, I don't think you have much of a chance. If you can get to a safe place where, you have recovery coaches working with you and program managers, putting together a wellness plan for you, and creating, a structured program in AA. It's AA-based, but there's different pathways to recovery we work with.
You do a lot of different things in your facility.
Right. So, and if you can put together the time, whether it be 3, 6 months, it's going to give you such a much better chance at recovery.
Okay.
And that's what it's all about.
What's the average time in your facility?
Well, it's we're in a new place, so it's the first year. But, and I've been in sober houses. Usually it's 3 to 6 months. Like I said, I stayed 6 months after 3 months, so I actually almost had a year of these type of facilities. But, I was willing. I knew I needed it at the time. And it really helped me with, again, reintegration to my family and my children, and everything else the wreckage that I created. I needed that time. I needed to be in a safe place, and I think most people do if you're anything like I am. to get to long-term recovery, and it worked for me. I tried every other way, like I said, for 5 years to cheat the system, so to speak, and do it my way and just cut short a little bit. And it never worked, so finally I was willing to do that, and I was willing to take the advice of guys that I trusted in front of me, every step of the way. Because, again, for me, and I think for most, the stages of recovery, you can't speed it up, into a 30-day I'm all set and I'll just do meetings, or, it's 3 months and then I'll do this. And, like, for me, I needed to go through the stages of recovery in a safe place through that first 3, 6, 9 months. And again, it worked for me to this point, and I feel pretty good, and I feel like I have a really good, stable life. And, I was able to reintegrate with my family, my kids. And we talked about this already. I remember with my kids when I was sick and I didn't know how to get out of it, I can remember the expression on their faces, how, they used to be so proud of me. And I remember the expressions on their face where I could see how they were just so embarrassed and disappointed by me. And, it was such a sick feeling. And I didn't know how to deal with it, and I didn't know how to change it until I got into an environment. I remember when I was getting well, and they're like, it all started to change. And I remember them just saying to me, we just want you to be our dad. You know what I mean? We just want you to be you and there for us. You don't have to be any superhuman being or anything like that. And that was important to hear from me, to bring it back to the basics, because it's just such a great relationship I have now that at the end of it,
That's what I was going to say.
I was hopeless. I was despair. I had no hope of that.
And you have a great relationship with both of them.
I do. And I went from, again, it changed quick, because we went from, this guy should be in, he was a Hall of Fame hockey player, right? Yeah. So you go from that person to a broken down man that your children can't even look at. It's just the saddest, sickest place to be. But again, I was fortunate to be able to take the advice and to get onto a program with people who were willing to help me, and it saved my life.
Yeah, so it's amazing. We're at A.Jensen now. It's like you said, it sneaks up on you, and then your next show you're affecting everybody around you. It's like, and you don't want to. We're not trying to hurt your kids. I'm not trying to hurt my kids but you're trying to do the best you can do. But the best we can do isn't good enough. Then it's like it's hard. It's a hard way to live. It's a sad way to live. It's a very hard way to live too.
It certainly is.
And there's so many. There is ways out. You just said how there's a lot of ways we can get out of this thing. But it's like you said, willingness. That's the biggest word when you're suffering from addiction. I'm willing to take the next step and listen to other people and not try to do it like I want to do it. And I'll go when I want to go, and I'll do what I want to do. That's the hardest thing, because you got to where you got because you worked and you got there because you worked harder than everybody else. You had more talent, whatever. That's how we get there. But this
different.
It's about having people around you, having people
everybody's
help
the same.
Yeah, and
no
everybody's got to help
talent.
everybody.
So what was the turning point for you? I mean, I've known you for about 10 years now, and it was before that. Well, you were going into your recovery when we first met. What was the turning point for you? Do you remember a specific day when you said, "This is it. I got to do something"?
Oh, geez, there were a lot of days like that. Like I said, I think I crossed over the world of addiction in that 2004 mark. I finally went to my first detox right during my 40th birthday. Right. So having said that, there wasn't one particular moment. There were many moments I knew that this is it for me, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what to do. Again, I had to turn it over to people in front of me and people that could help me.
Right.
But I had to be willing to go through the process and patient enough to deal with the stages of recovery. Like I wanted everything instant. I wanted it now. Artie just talked about it. We grew up as hockey players. Like we grind through it. We work through it, and that's how we'll get success. It's not like that with this. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not like I can work out and this is out of my system or, this is a totally different world and process. That takes a lot of willingness and a lot of help. You can't do it by yourself. Not that we couldn't hockey because it took a team, but for individually, like this is a whole different world. So, like I knew the turning point. Like I knew, like the turning point for many, many years. It wasn't until I was wanting to get into a program of recovery that it changed for me. But again, like I felt it happen within the first month I was there. Like I felt like, man, I got a shot at this. Like I can recover from this. When in the 5 years previous to that, I never had that, but it was all me. It was all in my mind, and you know how it is, right? Like and finally, when you finally turn it over and you figure, you know what? Like I'm doing all right here. I got a shot. You probably remember that, Artie. Because I battled this addiction. At the end of it, I did not have any hope. I was complete with despair. Yeah.
So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be right back.
You got it.
All right, you stick with us?
I think the Senate needs a break over there. He looks tired.
That's right,
Fatigued,
the iconic figure. All right.
The senator.
All right. We'll be right back on Crosscheck.
Right. You got it.
1, 2, 3, 4. Boston, for Boston, we sing out refrain. For Boston, till wisdom's earth be fair. For here our waterhouse is true, and the towers on the heights reach the heavens are blue. For Boston, till the echoes ring again. For Boston, till the echoes ring again.
Welcome back to Crosscheck. My name is Andy Bernstein, here with two-time Stanley Cup champion Kevin Stevens, the man, the myth, the legend, and Alyssa Horton, recovery specialist. And we're going to pick back up with A.Jensen, former NHL veteran and sober home.
Recovery coach, program manager.
There you go. There you go. So we're having a great discussion about sober homes, really trying to give people more information about what it is, what the advantages are. And Alyssa had some questions that she was going to ask of you.
Yeah, so I think that it's really important for people to be informed on both ends, right? So they're hearing in newspapers and they've seen articles on how sober houses are bad, but that's not true. Right. That's just what for newspapers to sell money, like to sell papers. So can you tell them a little bit about why it's so important to have that like aftercare? What's the structure really? And for anybody really?
Well, for me, and I think for most people, you know, when you get to a point where you need help in addiction, like your life has become unmanageable.
Right.
And there's a lot of, again, for me, there's a lot of wreckage that I created that needs to be cleaned up, and it doesn't happen overnight. So going to a sober home and reintegrating back into real life, you know, trying to get back into becoming employable again, back into having relationships that were meaningful and lasting with my wife and kids was so important to do that in a safe environment where I had really good structure and really good guidance from, again, those in front of me who had done it, gone through the steps, which I needed to do. There was a lot that I needed to do on my way back to recovery. And again, we talk about the stages of recovery, you know, the first trimester and the 6 months. I'm sure you guys can remember how difficult that first year was. So
just a tad.
Yeah. So for me, and again, I think I've said this before, you know, I tried everything else my way and it never worked. I ended up in the same place, and every time I got a little deeper, I sank a little deeper into addiction, depression, and, you know, towards death, in my opinion. So when I was willing to reintegrate and work in a sober environment for 6 months, and again, I wanted to stay longer, and they told me you're ready. It was necessary for my recovery, and I think it's so necessary for so many people that I've worked with in a sober home environment. You know, I can see the changes in them, and sometimes they can't, but I could feel it myself. It's kind of like watching yourself grow. It's hard to see it, but other people can see it in you. So, and people would tell me that. So there was a lot of good feedback. You know, I felt myself getting stronger. It worked for me. You know, I've been in long-term recovery. Like I said, I'm coming up in 9 years in a couple of months, which is great. And it's not the 9 years. It's the quality, I think, of recovery, and you can feel it. The quality of relationships, the quality of your life, your purposefulness. You know, and it's a great place to be. And it's a great place to have all those tools that I learned through California and through sober home living.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head, gents, because you know there's so much wreckage that we have happens in our life when we go through, like, you know, trying to get sober. We, you know, are out there for 4 or 5, 15 years, whatever we're out there. There's so much wreckage, and to be able to be in a place, you know, some of us addicts like myself, we want everything now. You know, we want to be sober now. You kind of realize that you can't have everything now, and you can go through all those life issues in a place where you can you go home to it, it's sober, and you're around people that are sober, because those things aren't easy, you know, because we mess up. I messed up a lot of things. It wasn't easy to get back to where I had to get back to, and you know, and having a safe environment like these places are, it doesn't matter where you go or what you're at, but to be around sober people in a safe environment is really important.
Yeah, the community living right at home, for people understanding it's definitely an added bonus. But another thing I was thinking, so for anyone that's listening or watching, you know, what are some of the things that they should be looking for when they're looking for a sober houses? Like we said, right, there are some that may not have the best intentions, but there are some really amazing places.
Many.
Like the one you work for. Yeah. I went through one that was amazing and saved my life. So what would you think that these people, when they're calling or we'll give a resource later on, what they should be asking when they're calling? Well,
I think it's important to look at the structure of the program and see what the facility, what the amenities include too. For somebody, for myself, it was all about the program. And, there was a lot I needed to do clinically. So when you have a sober home who has a program manager or a director who's going to guide you with certain structure and requirements, standards of living in the sober home, where it's a progression, because when you come in there, there's sort of like, there's stage of recovery. In the first 30 days, you want to be doing this, the 30 to 60 this, 60 to 90. Yeah. So there has to be a schedule, plus there has to be a history, in my opinion. You want to go talk to people who have been there before and look at what the quality of the place is and what kind of coaching or, services, resources are put into the program.
In the sober living, explain, I don't know, for people that don't know about, so they come in, they live there.
Yep.
And then, you leave. It's not like a treatment place. It's more of a
transition living.
Where you...
It is. And again, it's, everyone's different. So you have to, when you do an intake or, evaluation with the client of who they are, what their history is, and where they want to be, everyone has different family circumstances, job circumstances. So we try to tailor it to the individual. You have to. Yeah. In every case, where you are, we got to meet you where you are and try to build back a structure and a foundation for you. Everyone's different. So obviously, like you said already, you sleep there. There's certain meetings requirements that you have to, times that you get up.
Right, and those are things you should look
curfews,
for.
Yeah. So, and there's guidance. So there has to be someone there at all times, in my opinion, that are helping. Again, a program manager situation at the place, because we're looking to tailor a program to who you are. Obviously the principles are all the same in AA as far as the recovery model, but every individual is different, and every individual has different circumstances and goals in life. So we want to create a healthy, balanced wellness plan that's going to work for each individual.
Awesome. One of the things that I have spoken with you about is career change. Being that, not going necessarily back to the work that you were doing before. Yeah. Can you speak to a little bit that?
Well, and that's the thing too. You and I talked about not all careers are healthy careers, as we know. So, and that's the one thing you want to, again, an intake situation.
Kev's doing broadcasts tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome, but you want to find
amazing.
Why am I doing broadcast
right now?
I know.
Well, we talked
the talk show. I'm not broadcasting.
But it's so true. I had to take a look at my life, and I was in a position where I had a very a good job as far as financially. I was making very good money what I was doing, but it wasn't really, it was sort of a cutthroat atmosphere that I was involved in. It was a corporate world. It wasn't the healthiest lifestyle for me, so to speak, and there was no passion in it. So, when I reevaluated what I wanted to do and to make a living, I looked at something, and I think everyone should look at this, something that, you have a passion for, that you're going to be happy doing, and at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of purpose involved in it. So for me, it was critical to get back, and that's what I do with my hockey program and helping people in recovery. I've been doing it ever since I got sober, and there's such great passion. I work with so many kids and trying to make a positive difference in their lives. When I go home at night, I feel good every day because I know I impacted a kid in a positive manner.
Not about the money.
You couldn't put a price tag on
and you know
that.
what? I get enough money to pay my bills, and that's all I need. At the end of the day, it's not about how much money I have, what toys I have, how many goals and assists I have. When I meet my maker, I believe he's going to ask me, what did you do with your life? How did you make a difference? And at the end of the day, when I make a difference and I feel great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's fulfilling.
I feel a lot better than when I deposited $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000. It's whatever it is. Yeah. So for me, that was important. For me, I think it goes back to when you're working with individuals, you have to find out and try to help encourage them towards a passion in their life, and to have them challenge themselves to look at whatever career they're in. Is it the right career for you? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And it's not my decision. I don't project, but we just open it up to question and take a look at yourself. What's going to make you happy? Because we all know, what's going to make you happy in life, because you can find whatever career it is, and I believe if you're passionate and love it, you're going to be very successful. and you'll do fine financially to be able to meet, whatever
Absolutely.
standards. Yeah.
People with all the money in the world have not,
Totally.
Some of them still are.
You
not
can't
happy.
take it with you either. You know what I mean? So So that's how
I have that argument with my fiance all the time. I can't take it with me. I'm going to spend it on products. Leave me alone. Products make me happy.
Right. And if you bought on sale, tell them how much money you saved.
I do.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard it many times. That's what I said to my wife. How much did you save me today with all those shopping bags, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How much did you spend? Right?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Tell us about DAJ Hockey.
Well, DHA Hockey is a hockey training company. We have a skills center, and then we work with skill-specific camps, clinics with kids, which I love. And then I work in a nonprofit, company called Hockey Cares for Kids, and we do anti-bullying, programs for kids. I also work with the state with foster kids, which is awesome. It's a sibling initiative where foster kids who are split up from their families, they get to come together each month, and we run street hockey programs, or flag football or skates, and we provide pizza and games, and they get to see their siblings, which is awesome. I mean, it's so. To me, it's I was such a growing up with brothers and sisters, family's so important to me, and it is for every kid. That it's so sad that they get separated from their siblings, but it's awesome to see them come together and keep them seeing each other every month. That's important to me. And again, we talked about the bullying programs. Like, to me, it's like substance abuse or substance awareness, and it's just something out there that it's an epidemic. Kids are dying from it, and there's not enough awareness or programs or education being put towards that. Absolutely. And that's where we want to. That's where I want to make a difference. So DAJ Hockey does a lot of that with the nonprofits, and so it's it's a lot of balance to that company. I'm proud to be the owner and operator of it, but we have so many great staff that make that work.
But it's all about community. You're working with the community and volunteering a ton of your time to try to help other people.
Right, and there's so many NHL alumni that support it and are involved in it. Actually, I already came to some stuff we did in Marlboro a few years back, which was awesome.
Oh, cool.
Nice. Clinics that we do for kids. So, it's great to work with NHL alumni. And again, like the nuts and bolts of it are the kids we work with in colleges and high schools that come out that want to be a part of it. And we try to mentor these kids, like in hockey. Yeah, it's so important. So, that's what it's all about.
You were at our great skate.
Amazing.
I was at your great skate, which was awesome. It was so phenomenal. Like, Artie did a great job talking to kids.
He had luckily, I had a Penguins jacket available for him because he was having.
Yeah. I had no shirt. I don't know what I had.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah. I had a shirt that didn't fit. It wasn't like my regular shirt. I thought it was like one of those shirts you sign. And
Speaking of that, I mean, you have a guy like that was awesome, and you have guys, hockey players are the best. You have a guy like Brian Leach, probably like one of the greatest hockey players ever, but one of the greatest people in the world.
So cool. Yeah, he was great, and so we're gonna do that again. Actually,
I'm in. I'm in for everything you guys do. I'll always be there.
You're the best.
Because why?
Because
because we power forward.
Totally, and I totally believe in what you guys are doing. And I love this guy. He's always been.
He's the best.
He's the best.
He's all right.
He's all right. Don't tell him that. Dave Jensen, thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy.
I appreciate it for you coming on.
Thanks, Addy.
Good to see you again.
You too.
We'll be right back on Crosscheck.
1, 2, 3, 4. Boston, for Boston, we sing out that refrain. For Boston, till wisdom's earthly fame. For here our water hearts are true, and the towers on the heights reach the heavens are blue. For Boston, till the echoes ring again. For Boston, till the echoes ring again.
Welcome back to Crosscheck. My name is Andy Bernstein, here with two-time Stanley Cup champion Kevin Stevens. He feels better now that he's eaten.
I haven't eaten anything. I had a couple of potato chips.
Okay, all right. And Alex Bazanson.
No time Stanley Cup winner.
No, but a fan.
I'm a big fan.
And an icon.
Icon.
And an icon.
All
right. So thanks for being part of the table for this segment. And let's welcome our next guest, Kimberly Walsh. She's with a sober living home called
Brady's Landing.
Brady's Landing. So you had a very interesting career. You were in sales and marketing for 20 plus years.
I was.
And you have a law degree.
I do.
Right? So you're an attorney.
I was not an attorney. I saw that job and I did not want
You're
it.
like, I'm out. You're like, I'm out. I'm not doing that. So,
education, but
but you have a doctorate too.
I have a doctorate in law. I was working on my second doctorate in psychology.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So then you started Brady's Landing because there was a need for it. So talk to us about that, and we'll have a discussion about it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd love to. Well, Brady's Landing's been my labor of love, really. It's that it starts with, and I'll go where it started, then I'll come back to my story because it relates.
Yeah.
So this, the property itself is just a magical place. It was where I went every summer as a kid. I went and saw my grandparents. They lived there. They built the house. My great-grandfather built the house. The place is amazing. It belies really any oral description, but I will tell you, there's a long, windy driveway that goes and it opens up into like 2.5 acres of this lush landscape overlooking the water, the salt marsh. You can see the boardwalk. It's just, and you're surrounded by nature. We don't have any neighbors. It's an amazing place, and it represented so much to me as a kid. So fast forward now, 20 plus years, I was a very high-functioning alcoholic. So I enjoyed the high life. It looked really good from the outside. I was running multi-million-dollar corporations, growing companies, just having a great time in Southern California, till I wasn't, and it caught up to me. And I struggled for several years trying to, like most of us, get sober. My story isn't dissimilar than most. I mean, I thankfully did not hit the low of being under a bridge with a needle sticking out of my arm and dumpster diving. That didn't happen to me, but there was still the same amount of pain and anguish and fear and sorrow and, desperation. So when I did a couple stints in rehab, and when I finally got it, if you will, when I came out of rehab, I knew I couldn't go home because you can't go from the bubble of treatment and go straight back home, because I had done that and it doesn't work. Yeah. You need a transitional place, and your chances of success in sobriety increase substantially when you do that. So I knew I needed that, and there weren't any. They were either not reputable, or they weren't, or maybe they were teenagers. And here I was a little bit older. I was like, I don't want to bunk with teenagers again. You know what I mean? I just got out of rehab. So not only was there nothing out there, there was nothing that was that I thought would fit for me, that it would be a good, solid foundation. So I kind of packed up my bags and I went back to my grandparents' place, and I stayed there by myself. I went to AA and those types of things. I worked a program, and I found that the serenity of the atmosphere, the environment, the people in the town, everything about it was just cathartic. It helped me. It was like something transformational happens when we connect to the universe through nature, and that's what really happened. And so it was a personal transformation. That was the catalyst for my recovery. So I thought, other people could get this too. What if I built something that catered to an older female demographic, and they could kind of get the gifts that I got while I was there?
Yeah, that's it's pretty amazing. Like you said, I think there's like we talked with gents before. There's all different types of sober living and sober house, and I think, like you said, you guys cater to, the over 30 women. And they have a lot more things going on, right? They have kids. A lot of a lot of different stuff can happen in their lives, at that age.
Right, and it's a lot of different stuff that happens when you're 18. So for them to come together, they can kind of empower one another and build a real foundation with people who have similar life circumstances. Maybe divorce, or maybe an empty nest thing going on, but they understand they've had more time on earth and they've had more experiences, and they want to relate to and be supported by, people in their demographic.
How long have you guys been open for the sober house?
So we've been open since November.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
How many beds do you have?
We have 6 beds, so it's very boutique. It's very like Dave was talking about. It's very personalized. We look at the individual and we develop what we think is going to work best for them. They go during the day, they'll go to IOP, so that's intensive outpatient therapy. They'll do group therapy during the day, and if not, they'll integrate working, part-time, maybe a wellness job, that type of thing.
Yeah. So you like where it is, basically where the place is, because I've been into the woods and I've been into the city. It's kind of a lot of nice. You guys are on the bay or the ocean side or whatever. It's kind of nice where you have a place where you can kind of just hang out and kind of relax a little bit, because we all know, addiction. We're always moving, hustling. There's no place to really have that time just to sit with yourself a little bit, and that's important, right?
That's absolutely important, and that's kind of the goal too. Yeah. We want to take advantage. I tell the girls all the time, look around. Take advantage, slow down, just listen to the. There's we got all kinds of nature happening. The birds and we've got the water right there, and let's walk to the boardwalk. Let's take a calming walk, and it's. You just start to get immersed in the beauty of the surroundings, and you understand things, and you start to see things more clearly, and it just is really it bodes well for your recovery process.
What are some of the things that you try to reinforce with people, with your residents, like as far as career transitions? Are there certain things that you try to reinforce, so when somebody leaves the home that they're changing behaviors so that they don't relapse?
Correct, and that's so important. You can't keep them in a bubble, but so you got to give them a little bit at a time. So what we do, like say the first 30 days, it's not a good idea to have your car. You know what I mean? You don't want to be driving around. The meetings are so close they can walk, so they don't need to have their car necessarily. But once we feel that they've kind of, okay, you've proven yourself, you're doing good, let's give you another little piece. And each one's going to be different, right? Sometimes they don't get their car back at all. They're just not ready because they. But okay, this one's ready. Give you your car back. Okay, you're doing well with that. That's great. You want to go home for, go back to see what happens. What are going to be your triggers? Let's look at some relapse prevention tools before you go back. Check in. Who are you going to check in with? Who's your buddy? You know what I mean? We kind of get that set up so that they can. So they go, okay, here's a little taste of what it's going to be like to be at home. Okay, now I feel more comfortable, right? So they work up to going back home.
Now, do you drug test them
absolutely
when they come back?
Oh, absolutely, right, and randomly.
And I think that 30-year-old women, a lot of them are married. A lot of them are transitioned back to their kids, which, kids are great and kids are, but the pressure, that's, you're just leaving by yourself and you've learned, the steps of, what you have to do. Sometimes it's about jumping back into a family atmosphere with kids is also a little tougher situation too, right?
It is a tougher situation, and absolutely. We've seen that a lot with the children. And that's kind of why I think it is that women don't get treatment as much as men do. I mean, the men's sober houses are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. You don't see any women, you don't see the women's houses as much. And I think that comes a lot from stigma, that it's just more acceptable. I think our society is such that it's easier for men to be able to step away from the family, whereas females, they're the glue, and I can't leave my children to go 6 months to a sober living home. Are you crazy? So they don't get treatment. So I have a friend who's an ER doctor, right? And he tells me, Kimberly, these women are dying in the ER. Women your age and older, whatever, of cirrhosis, of alcohol-related conditions. It's terrible. So that was another reason. And then the Cape, of course, very per capita. I think we have more alcoholics than as we've got the veterans and things like this and the older. So I thought, well, there's definitely a need.
How does it help you in your sobriety running a home?
Can I tell you a quick story?
Please.
So one of my first clients came to us, and she was, this poor woman was broken, just broken. She wouldn't make eye contact. She was, sad. It was terrible. So finally, after 30 days or so, her husband comes to visit, and he hadn't seen her in the whole 30 days. So he comes in, and she's behind me. And so I see him see her, and his eyes opened, he just started welling up and just was emotional. He began crying. He said, "Oh my wife's back," and I went, and there it is. That's why I do what I do. That helps my recovery.
Okay.
Yeah, that's I think that's when you're in your position and what you do, that's when you see people get to the next step and be happy and be back with their family, that's that's what it's all about. That any of us in recovery see someone get sober, but with you're personally, you have a little more different relationship sometimes when you see the people all the time, and once you're able to take that next step, it's huge.
Oh, it's amazing.
So here's my other question. What is the after? So somebody leaves. Is there a follow-up? Do you keep connected with people?
100%. Yes, the alumni is very important because again, this is the foundation they're building. So these women are forming bonds. They're friends with one another. They want to keep in touch. I mean, they come from different places around in Massachusetts, and so they can keep in touch. They may not go to the same meetings, but we all want to bring them back at least once every quarter to do an alumni function where we'll just have a barbecue or just enjoy the property again, and they tell their stories and encourage the new women who've just come in.
What is like, how is it hard? How hard was it to get your house, like be able to get like people, not people there, but for you to actually have a sober house?
Good question. It, like I said, is a labor of love. Lots of hurdles, but I will tell you this: when I realized that that's what I was supposed to do, and I put one foot in front of the other, and miracles happened, and doors opened, and it really did flow. Not that is not to say there weren't unbelievable hurdles.
Yeah, tell us about that. What are the hurdles?
Well, there was funding for one.
Right,
that's going to be your number one issue, right? But I'll tell you. One of the things that when I knew I was supposed to be doing this, we had, I was in California and I'd packed up my bags and my dog, Brady.
Oh, yeah, that's a dog, nice.
Yes. And we moved across country, drove across country. And so when we were going to, I went in and had investor with purchasing the house, we had to come up with the closing costs, right? Which I was not informed of how high they were going to be. They were going to be upwards of like $14,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I didn't have an account in Boston at that time. I had an old, bank account that I knew didn't have anything in it. So I was, well, what are we going to do? I don't have $14,000. Who has $14,000 laying around? Yeah. So, and it was 2 hours before we're supposed to close. Right. So I'm going, so I'm calling my bank. What am I going to do? No, can I wire it? Get into the thing. I need the money. I'm calling friends. Nothing. Now we're down to an hour, and I have to.
So the clock is ticking.
The clock is ticking. So I don't know what to do. So I'm sitting at the bank that I had before, and the woman says, Miss Walsh, you sure you don't want to check this account? I said, I haven't looked at this account in 2 years. Believe me, I would know if there was any money in there. I'm very frugal. So she says, well, let me just look it up, just in case. So she looks it up, and she just looks at me, turns the screen around, and there's not $15,000, not $13,000, but $14,000 in that account.
Wow. So you knew at this point this was
like, divine intervention. Yeah. This is definitely I don't know where it came from. True story.
And you're not going to ask.
And I'm not going to ask. If it was a mistake, okay, yeah, just go ahead. She said, would you like me to wire that? Yes, please get the quickly before they.
That's great.
That's awesome. Yeah. So tell us, what is your hope for the future for sober living?
I want to save everybody.
Yeah.
You want to open more? You just want?
I do want to. Yes, I do. I think that will be the direction that it goes.
Women.
From what we've seen, there's a huge need for women sober. We've been involved with Teen Challenge, and even they have a women's facility now. They have an adolescence facility, but there's it like you said, most of it is geared toward men in the recovery industry.
It's true.
And there's a huge need for women's facilities.
100% agreed.
Well, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show today. It was quick and painless, right?
Yeah, it was like, rip the Band-Aid off.
I know. We're figuring this out as we go, but we have a studio audience.
Love it.
We have great stuff. So if you want to learn more about sober housing as a whole, you can visit the Massachusetts Alliance for Sober Housing.
Correct.
MASH.
MASH.
And I'm sure there's national ones as well.
There are. There's NARR, which is the National Alliance of Recovery Residences. But yes, you can contact those agencies if you, if people have questions and anything, I can answer questions too. I can, Brady's Landing is a female only sober home, but we have referrals in network for anything they need, IOP, other sober homes, what have you.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, and that's our show for the week. Thank you to Lisa Bezanson.
Lisa,
thank
you.
Alex, Kevin, Alyssa, Dave Jensen, of course, and
our studio audience.
Nancy,
Kimberly's mom.
Kimberly's mom,
and from Arizona.
Yep.
So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Crosscheck.
Thank you.
Special thanks to community supporters of the show: City of Boston Credit Union, Martin's Restaurant in Abington, Mass., and the Washburn House Effective Addiction Treatment.